And so you would get a ham, you get your collard greens for money, and good luck, your black eyed peas, your rice, I think your biscuits, you have something sweet for the new year. All of those things are inside of the basket. And the goal is for you to get with your family. Get with your family. And you all cook, you eat, and you pray together. All right. Now I'm going to give you your vouchers. Listen very carefully. I'm going to give you your vouchers probably in the month of November. Okay? My residents will receive their vouchers early. And so the others, once I distribute yours, then everybody else will receive theirs. Is that cool? So you will know next month, I think it's next month, right? Next month, because I won't really see them in December, right? I will? Okay, all right. So then it'll be December. And you will get yours early. You'll be able to come to Betty Ferguson, have a seat, and get your prosperity baskets, okay? And we are gonna pack them over there as well, okay? So the elves that helped me last year, please come on by and help me again. Deal? Okay. All right, so our board member has come in, and I am going to turn the mic over to him. But before I do that, I want to tell you guys, Dr. Gallen, for about 35 years, I think it is, almost up there. And Dr. Gallen and I almost started in the school system together. And he was one of the first hirees for the ASOP program, I think if I'm correct. And I interviewed, and I think he beat me out. But he was running and one of the pioneers of the program, mentoring and helping students, especially if I'm not mistaken, young boys to kind of turn their life around. And then Dr. Gallen went on and he became a principal. And I became a principal after him. And when I opened up the first charter school in the state of Florida, I did not have a teacher and didn't even know really where to begin. And I picked up the phone and I called him. And I called him and told him just what I just said to you. And he said, I'm gonna send you somebody. He sent me 2 teachers to my school. And they stayed with me, one until death, and the other one until my school closed. And because of those 2 men that were apart, that were referred to me by him, my school became an A school, right? And the reason why I wanted to tell that story, because it leads me into another story. So many years after that, he decided that he was going to run for this thing called the school board. And he was having a meeting, and I came over to Scott Lake. And I think that we were in the cafeteria. And he started to outline what it was going to take to form this district and District 1 especially. And he started to break down the grades of every single school in District 1. And he started to outline how that was going to change. He had put a plan together before he had even said that he was going to officially run. Before he filed, he was coming in with a plan to make a difference, to ensure that Miami Gardens, as one of the areas that he's going to represent, that he would represent with excellence. And he would come in with the same expectations that he came in at Holmes, and he went into Miami Northwestern. You know, I call myself a hybrid because my parents graduated from Northwestern. And they moved from Liberty City, where Flora Heights was, up here. The Urban League was the reason why my parents received their home. So when you take a look at every single person, we all have a story as to how we arrived here. But seldom sometimes are you in a place where you actually meet people who make a difference, who really make a difference. So now we stand in some ways on the eve of seeing the entire district become what he said it would be. It ain't. Now we stand at a time when you walk into the schools in Miami Gardens, they're clean, they have strong professionals who are leading them, The faculties and staff are more than qualified to do the job. And nothing but excellence is expected from those at the district as well as at the region levels when you're dealing with them. And that's because we have a board member who was a teacher, who was a principal, who was and still is one of the best educators in this county, in the state, and one in the nation. And so I'm going to ask him to come up because he is a colleague and a friend and someone that And Jamal was one of his students. That's why Jamal was wonderful.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Always a teacher. First of all, I want to thank Councilwoman Katrina Wilson, not only for that outstanding introduction, but for staying the course as it relates to her individual and commitment to public service. I want to say parenthetically that everybody doesn't do this. Everyone doesn't do this. In leadership, in public service, everyone doesn't do this. It's important to communicate, collaborate, and in some cases have conflicts with the community. That's part of the process. But very often leadership does not want to engage, does not want to be transparent, does not want to meet people where they are. Although you have a calendar that outlines the school year, on the reverse side of the calendar, you also have dates of things that I've planned out for the entire year. Student of the month, town hall meeting, Black History Month, all of the things that I've planned for the year are disclosed to the public before the year starts. Because I want to keep that commitment to the public, that I'm always going to be engaged, transparent, and open, and willing to communicate and collaborate and resolve and address conflicts as a community. She mentioned earlier, calendars on the table, they don't have it. She mentioned earlier that there were 2 teachers that I released at the principalship of Holmes Elementary School. I was 26-year-old, Dr. Simonette. I was principal at Holmes Elementary School at the time. And every now and then in life, you have an opportunity to realize what true legacy is about. I see one of my former colleagues. That's right, she remembered me, a young principal. She was over plant operations. Right. That's right. I remember over plant operations, and I actively engaged in that process as well, very supportive. I would be remiss if I didn't say, looking at this audience, I miss, and my heart is heavy when I don't see Mr. Turner here, my former kindergarten teacher at Turner's Kindergarten, who's gone on to glory. But it's always a great moment to come here because he and his family were always a staple here of support, but also of accountability. But she mentioned the teacher in particular that I released. And in life, we always don't have the opportunity to realize what true legacy is. And I've defined legacy in my mind as having an opportunity to plant seeds that will grow trees from which we may never eat. But God has truly blessed me that I'm able to plant some of those trees that have grown fruit, and I can see the fruits of my labor. She mentioned Jamal, but another young man, Anthony, he's also an assistant in Miami Gardens with Robert Stevens. His father was the teacher that I sent over there to her. And this young man became a student at Northwestern. He's done an outstanding job. So you get an opportunity in education to see how your work is so important and how it impacts families. Secondly, I want to, as I always do, I want to thank each and every one of you that supported me in 2016. 3 promises, but I did. That I would be the one to bring forth the item for the general obligation bonds that is now going to be north of $2 billion that has come to this district for school teacher salaries and safety, but I did.
Yes.
I didn't promise that I was going to bring the item that held the administration accountable for over $2 billion in ESSA funding, but I did. I didn't promise that I would be one of the first districts in the nation to have a policy on the achievement gap, but I did. I promised three things: that I would stand, I would speak, and I would fight. Full stop. And I've kept that promise. But I also asked the community to never let me lead alone. Never let me lead alone. And I think that's the imperative of leadership that requires that level of community, that level of communication, and that level of engagement. Because as leaders, we're just a conduit. God has just selected us and elevated us to be the conduit of the work that we promised to deliver. But as an educator, I made some promises regarding accountability. And I'm here to say, as I have each and every year since 2017, in 2016, District 1 had the highest number of F schools in Dade County. The highest number. Carroll City Middle School, that proudly now sits at a B grade, had 5 consecutive Fs. When I do my speeches around the country, I always say 5 consecutive Fs in a row. I have a degree in English and I know what I'm doing. I'm doing that for punctuation, right, Dr. Simonette? Consecutive means what? In a row. But for the people in the back, in a row. Okay? But within the first year, we eliminated all F schools. We eliminated them immediately. Immediately. We, not I, we. I was a conduit. Second year, we eliminated the D schools. By the third year, we had no F and D schools in District 1. And I'm very proud that we now have a string of 6 years with no failing schools in our district. And in District 1, the district in 2016 that had the highest number of F schools now has 70% of the schools are either A or B. 70%. And each and every year, we give an account. We give an account to the community. We give an account to the public. But we also celebrate, but we also reflect and understand that we have to in life, but definitely in education. Where my educators at? In education, we have to embrace a spirit of continuous improvement. In life, we embrace a spirit of continuous improvement. So though I celebrate the success for whence we've come, I understand that we still have students that are sitting on the margins of our educational system. I still know that my promise to stand, speak, and fight has had to come into reality in the midst of the cacophony and rancor that we see in the public discord in the state of Florida. I have spoken out on immigration publicly. I've spoken out on executive orders to close down the Department of Education. I've spoken out successfully. Actually, Dr. Simonette was a part of that at Northern, of their initial attempt to eliminate funding for advanced placement and dual enrollment. I always will speak, stand, and fight if need be. And we've been successful in doing that. But I will say again, as elections have benefits, elections have consequences. And we are facing the consequences of the elections. But we must continue to press forward. I want to talk about 3 major things that are on top of mind in our school district. Yes, we celebrate the success. We celebrated it in 2016. We were an A-rated school district then, but our children were drowning in failure in District 1. And nobody said a word. But everybody has to be held accountable. Okay? Everybody has to be held accountable. So although while we celebrate that success of our district, the letter grade, we must reconcile with the reality that we still have students that are not proficient in reading and math. What does that mean, Dr. Gallen? Is it double talk? No. The current formula looks at a number of factors to give a school letter grade. So we have to play by the rules that we have. And we're proud of the letter grades, don't get me wrong. But we cannot become comfortable and complacent with the fact that we still have students that are not proficient. So that's number one. I'm going to continue to push, to fight for efforts to sustain proficiency. Students who are reading on grade level. You can have an A or B school. Within that school, you can have 50, 60% of students that are proficient. And if you have 60 that are proficient, how many do you have that are not? 40. That means 40 students may not be reading on grade level. Now, we know that there are a myriad of issues that are a result of that, but we must continue to push forward. We push forward with school leadership. We push forward with highly competent, committed, and courageous teachers. And we push forward with it with unapologetic metrics for accountability. I'm a big proponent of accountability. But it must start with the leader, him or herself. That's why I never shy away from a meeting Monday. I'm coming. I'm not going, when we get to Q&A, I'm not going, who been to town hall meeting with me? Anybody been to my town hall meeting? There's no paper, somebody will review the questions, we take them from the floor, because we have to be accountable. I'm getting a little chills because I mind my business, but I know what good, solid, responsive, and respectful leadership looks like. I know what it looks like. I'm gonna stay in my lane, but I know we have to stand in the paint and in the place of accountability and transparency with the people. So I'm always honored to be here with you, and I want to commend you for your consistency. And I'm gonna say it, anybody do that to me. Everybody doesn't do this. All leaders don't want to stand in the paint of accountability and public discourse. They want to evade public conflict because they're unable to deal and collaborate and communicate their performance. They don't want to be accountable, whoever they may be. That ain't me, I'm here. She's here. But you must be here. And I want to commend you for being here. And I just looked around the room, where are the brothers at? I mean, I guess they're out there coaching. We have these Father's Day. I'm like, don't celebrate the fathers on a certain day. Fathers got to be celebrated every day. Come on now. And I did a policy on that, believe it or not. I wrote a policy item to make sure that a father who is in good standing, legally and otherwise, should have access to the school records, to the report card, and to actively engage in his or her child's education. Because what you may not know, the antiquated process, I'm just deviating, the person who registers as a child is the one that completes the paperwork. So they're the ones that have priority over who can access and engage in the school situation. That's not fair, because it could be the grandmother, it could be the aunt, it could be the mother, it could be the father. A qualified, committed, and loving parents should be able to be a part of that process. So we want to always give a shout out to the fathers. And I just dropped my daughter off to tutoring at the library, so we're gonna keep it moving. Okay? So that's one of the things we want to do. The second thing, top of mind, is enrollment. And I'm gonna post a clip later on social media. We had a committee workshop today, and when I had to kind of debunk this whole idea about enrollment, I dealt with this, and I'm saying this quietly but with some fervor, about I was on the heels of my re-election, 2020. There was a whole discussion about declining enrollment. I'm just being real. We had somebody came in, somebody talked about it, about Carol City's declining enrollment. And I went to UPPAC and I hit them with data. The enrollment was declining at Carol City. It was declining at Highland Miami Lakes. It was declining at Coral Gables. It was declining at Crop. So this declining enrollment phenomenon is something that is reflective across the district. But every now and then we have groups that want to be myopic and really isolate an issue that's not isolated based on data. Because everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but not their own facts. And so we looked at that trend happening across the school district over the last several years. And I've given commentary along with the data, looking at it from an anecdotal standpoint. I look at where I live. I live in Miami Gardens. I live by Scott Lake. I go on my block. Miss Shalom, to the right of me, to the west of me, had 3 boys. They're 3 adult boys, right? They're not in school. Miss Rhonda, to the east of me, has no children. She still lives there. Mr. Jeffs, west of Miss Shalom, I'm calling my neighbor. I'm going down the block. So stable communities may not always have new children. I'm going down my block. Go down your block. How many of you live where you live at the last 25, 30 years? Okay? Yeah, I'm the one that started over. That's neither here nor there. Zoe means life, and I love her. I love her new life. But my point is, we created this narrative about declining enrollment in a way that somewhat sought to malign a school, your school, Sarah City then, was a big thing, sought to malign certain communities. But when I put up the data about declining enrollment, that's pervasive not only across this county, but now we see it is pervasive across the state and the country. Why? Research is showing, the data is proving that America is experiencing a decline in birth rates.
Yes.
Everybody's with me?
Yeah.
That's just a fact. That's a fact. So people want to sound the alarm about declining enrollment. So today I said to my colleagues, we can't let this whole narrative about declining enrollment become somewhat of a narrative that maligns our district. Because some of them, my colleagues, and I respect all of them, I'm the one that said it publicly, we're down 12,000 students this year because of immigration. I said it today. I'm gonna post it. Y'all know I tell the truth, right? I'm gonna say it. I said it, and I kind of quietly said it to my, y'all act like y'all can't say immigration. We have a national immigration policy that has reduced the birth rate, not the foreign-born students entering into our district. 2 years ago, we had 20,000 foreign-born students enrolled in Dade County Public Schools. 20,000. Right now, we have less than 1,000. This year, less than 1,000. If that trend continues alone, 1,000 a month, you'll be at 10,000 foreign-born students. Because we don't ask about immigration status. We ask about whether you're a foreign-born student. Okay? So those numbers are there. And I said this publicly today at the meeting, superintendent, board members, and to the public. And we have to give an account to that. So that's the reality of where we are right now. Okay, birth rates are down. We have just had a significant shift in immigration policy. And that's having an impact on enrollment. And I mentioned lastly that the days of Braddock, those who've been around a while, Geno's Braddock, remember Geno's Braddock? The school, it was national news when that school had 5,000 students in it. I had 3,200 at Northwestern when I was principal for 7 years. They're down to maybe 1,700. But that can be explained. That's our usual reaction. Let's talk about it. When I was there, I had Scott Projects. Let's go. Who want to go there? Somebody want to ride with me? I had Scott Projects. I had Golden Days. For those of y'all that don't know, that's Liberty Square. Okay. I had Sugar Hill. We ain't gonna talk about the village. I had PSU, Lincoln Field. Everybody with me? So that was the reality. And I had to navigate those 3,200 kids from all those different neighborhoods. Thank God I have social media. I was on the ground. I would bring them together. We contact Saturday, Sunday in the community, hands on. And I would chase you if you don't believe me. Okay? So there's an explanation. That's not an indictment on the school. It's a reflection of the realities of the community. So if you look at my block and your block and Miami Gardens and other areas, a stable community is not having new children. So new children are not filling up our seats. A community that's been gentrified, I said it. Did I say gentrified? Okay. Because we know that what happened over in Scott Projects, that was a promise made, but a promise broken. Because they promised the people they were going to move them, but do what? Bring them back. Okay, that's why they've been catching hell down at Homestead, because Liberty City is in Homestead. Okay, I'm telling you. You know, if you go bring him and tell the truth.
No, I'm going with that.
I ain't got time to be playing with you. My time is valuable. So we're dealing with that, and it's now become exacerbated. And this is where the levity of the moment shifts. So get ready for this shift. Because elections have consequences. We have now been confronted with the draconian, in my estimation, provision in state statute that was dropped in the last legislative session at the last minute. You can record me, I'll stand on my business. And that provision now allows 5 for-profit charter school management companies to declare space in our under-enrolled schools. That's in the law. Okay? That's in the law now. Elections have what? Consequences. And it was dropped in at the last minute. Okay? So they can look at a school and say, okay, school has 50% capacity, the school's capacity is 2,000, they only have 1,000 students, let me give them another 1,000 seats. And I'm not gonna pay rent, I'm not gonna pay food service, I'm not gonna pay security, I'm not gonna help you with utilities, but by law, I can access that building. Okay? So the political part of it is inconsequential because as an elected official, we're bound to follow what? The law. The law. And laws we don't like, we have an opportunity to change. But I don't lament about it too much because I've been around education long enough to know that everybody doesn't want to come and educate our children.
All right.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Everybody don't want to go in those spaces, but they have an opportunity to go in those spaces. And where they go into the spaces for pure profit and really not community ties and relationships. You know, as a lifelong educator of 35 years, I have an issue with that. But we're going to run on and see what the end is going to be. My last comment on that segment of that law is today I told my colleagues that I believe in the law of proximity. And what that means is you can have Success Academy out of New York. They got this big marketing thing. Ken Griffin said he's giving them $50 million. Okay, I knew Miami resident. He's investing in that because they believe some of these choice programs can work. You got KIPP as one of the providers. KIPP had a co-location with Ponciana when they first came in, and I called balls and strikes. That co-location resulted in 1 year. KIPP got an F, Ponciana got an A.
All right.
Same of simply educating children and accepting all children. You don't cherry pick and hand pick and things of that nature. But that's kind of where we are right now. With respect to that. So those are the dynamics that we're dealing with. We'll deal with it as we move forward, but we're very, very proud and confident in our teachers and our school leaders. And what I said today is that you could have a company that comes from outer space, but in life and in learning, there's something to be said about relationships. That's right. So my emphasis on this strategic planning work today, Makita, was to tell the superintendent, we need to be strong on the relationships that school leaders have with parents, that school leaders have with communities, relationships that children have with teachers. One of mine just walked in, Dr. Bryan, so that's when I was her principal. Okay, so relationships that they have. And those relationships are not forged overnight. How many of you recall a teacher that you had, that your grandchild had, your niece had, children, teachers who and educators have been in the community for decades? Those relationships matter. Yep. And so we just have to make sure that we are leading with those relationships. And I believe that's going to be what gets us there. No, we may not have some of the shiny buildings, but obviously if they're trying to come in ours, they're not trying to build new shiny buildings. And competition is, hey, it is what it is. As long as the playing field is level. As long as the playing field is level. As long as the accountability is level. And the last conversation I wanted to have was about the impact that the enrollment has on our revenue. We've been fortunate enough over the past 5 years. How many people work? I don't want to talk about anybody else's. Okay, we didn't have the issue with our budget gap to the extent that some other entities have had because we anticipated the cessation of ESSER funds. those who don't know what I'm talking about. When the COVID pandemic came, they can say all they want to, but the federal government provided not only stimulus checks, they provided stimulation financially to governmental entities. So our school district got an additional $2 billion immediately in revenue. I did an item for us to be accountable for that. But over time, we knew that would not be recurring revenue. So you can't continue to build a budget and make commitments and issue contracts and hire people, knowing that at some point that money is going to run out.
That's right.
So we did a good job of anticipating that. We only got caught flat-footed with the immigration issue, because you can't anticipate what that impact is gonna have. We just had the election in November. President took office in January, and whatever book they've been reading from, they've been following every script. So that immigration plan was rolled out with the rapidity that nobody could have seen coming. I mean, you're for border security, they got high marks, they got an A++, they locked it down. Okay? And hey, it is what it is. I'm in education, we don't worry about immigration status. But I understand it's supposed to be for criminals and everything else, but now that had an impact. But we couldn't anticipate that. So we anticipated the cessation of the federal funds. We knew that money would be gone. So if you got Felicia and Jerry and all these people getting paid out of grant funds, you got to transition them out. If somebody's retiring, you can't replace that person. Attrition plays a role in helping you to mitigate some of those budget issues. So if you got 15 people retiring, and you're not gonna be able to fund 15 people, then you implement what is called a hiring freeze for certain positions. But our position has protected the classroom. That's what we have done. But we've been a nimble district as related to administrative costs, so there ain't a lot much more to cut there. But we balanced our budget, $7.2 billion, with us being $200 million less than what we got in the past. The state, for its part, has increased educational funding. I would be hypocritical if I didn't say that. I don't play that game either. They have increased educational funding at the state more than they have in the past. But they've done it through specific categories. So it's not a significant impact to what is called a BSA. That's the base student allocation. What does that look like, Dr. Gallagher? When I was superintendent in New Jersey, when I left Florida, Precious, the BSA at the time was about 5,000. When I landed in New Jersey, my BSA was around 17,000. So per student. Base student allocation means what the state gives you for each student. So at that time, we were 4,000, but we were still 47th in the country. We might have been 49th, and we're 47th now. So we are still playing catch up. And what has exacerbated the issue is a $2 billion plus loss of revenue that we used to get over 2 decades ago. And this is I know that nobody won't get this answer, but I don't know where that $2 billion that we no longer get about 2 decades ago come from. Anybody has any idea? I've been around a long time. You know what it is?
So I think it's in the pockets of the people that have nothing to do with it.
No, the state used to give us in the pocket. It went somewhere.
Unfortunately, they don't.
So let me give you the formula. Let me give you the legal term of what it was. It was called a DCD. That stands for District Cost Differential. The state 20 years ago used to recognize that it costs more to educate a child in South Florida, in Broward, in Palm Beach, in Orlando, in Jacksonville, in Tampa, than it does in Martin County or Clay County or some of these little panhandle counties. So the state used to give us additional money. Over the past 2 decades, that loss of DCD funding has been north of $2 billion that we have not gotten. So we don't have any provisions for us being in a community that the rent is higher, the gas is higher, the utilities is higher. I live in Miami Gardens, and I live like that. water's water, okay? High, okay? And the traffic is horrific. If you know the nexus between bad traffic and your car running out of gas, you know, it's a different. Anybody knows street travel, you get a higher miles per gallon than you do on the highway. So that's been gone. But the state has increased funding for categoricals, but it's restricted, meaning you don't have flexibility in how you use that money. And my last thing about funding deals with something that I did bring an item for. So when I always talk about items I bring, you can go to dayschools.net, you can look at Meet the Board, you can go to a tab that says board items, and you can see every board item, every legislative policy I did. You can see every clip I've done, every newsletter I've done. I give an account regarding that. But what we also fail to do in our district, unlike other districts, is we're operating under an antiquated and unchanged and unadjusted impact fee schedule. Anybody knows what impact fee represents? Impact fee? Okay, impact fee is when the developers get a lot of work going on in Miami. Development, right? Okay, so you got a lot of development. So when I'm a developer and I'm going to put up a high-rise across the street over here, that high-rise, unless it serves senior citizens, the law is specific. If it's a high-rise for senior citizens, you don't have the impact fees. But if it's a high-rise that's going to service families, we anticipate that with families, you're going to have what? Children. And those children are going to attend what? Schools. And they're going to need additional seats. So impact fees is what is a small fee. I'm just going to say a small fee, but it's a tax to a developer saying, when you do your construction project, let's say if it's $100 million, you got to put some money aside to account for funding additional seats that will go to the school system. Our impact fee schedule has not been changed for 20 years. It has not been adjusted. So I did an item after we did an audit of the impact fee utilization, how we're using that money. So if you have impact fees, you can't use that money to hire a teacher. You can't use that money to do something that's not consistent with what the law provides for. You have to use that money in a targeted way to amplify and expand school seats, construction. And when they did an analysis of that, we found that our fee structure for impact fees had not been changed. There was an effort to change it some years ago, but something happened because we have to go through the county to get that done. We bring it to the county, they have to ultimately approve it. Palm Beach changed theirs, Orange County changed theirs, some other counties, they changed theirs and ours didn't. But the sad part about it is, impact fees are for different areas. You see those kids playing on the park? Impact fees for park and recreation. See the police officer? Impact fees. So you get impact fees for parks and recreation, impact fees for fire and rescue, impact fees for community safety, law enforcement, etc. Everybody's with me? So when you have that development, you know that it's going to be an additional burden on those areas, so a developer has to fund for that. And we haven't had those rates change. So those are some dynamics we're dealing with, and just want to again thank you for always having me, you know, meet me Monday, meet me Sunday, meet me Tuesday. Want to talk education, just meet me. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Peter Cherry. I'm a teacher at Miami Northern. Stand up, Dr. Simonet. You can stand. You can stand.
Wow.
Okay. Dr. Young, we just want to give you your flowers, not just for being, passing legislation and doing everything that your job says you're supposed to do, but there was a call that you did about a parent, a teacher, who signed out. They got a call that their child was misbehaving. They logged out, went to go, you know, do what they needed to do to their child to get that child back in order, and went back and clocked on the job. So the other board members were trying to get this teacher reprimanded, fired, written up, whatever. Dr. Gallen fought tooth and nail and let these people know that we cannot impose our cultural differences on anyone. However you raise your child is how you raise your child. And they were fighting and trying to get this man off his job, which would have meant, what, the child would have been acting out even more, right? Because now daddy ain't got no money, can't pay the bills. Dr. Gallen fought tooth and nail, and he did not get reprimanded, so I just want to say thank you for not doing the legislation for protecting us as teachers, because you know our salary fund. That's all I'm gonna say.
And I appreciate that. You know, I was reflecting Friday, and I have a life, you know, I have a life. You can leave, but you can also live. And I was reflecting on last week, like a lot of different things happened. And every now and then, if you follow me, I might put a post out there. That's something I'm talking about something. I put a post out there the other day that said, don't allow somebody to use you for their moment and you end up with their mess. So that, if you use it again, you better get ready. And I was talking about something that happened, because a lot of times people will come in, they will swoop into your community, they will sweep into your schools, they will sweep into your space, they may even sweep into your life for their moment. And then when they sweep out, they leave you with their what? Yes. And so a lot of things happen, to your point, that people never know. I respect the organizational bureaucracy. I respect the day-to-day, but I know the law and I know the system. And I must say, our superintendent, this one and even the previous one, they always respectfully deferred to me about my insight, my wisdom, and my understanding. I always told them I do a calculation on decisions I make with that teacher, for example. What she's talking about, I don't know if that's the exact one, these are public discussions. This is a public debate at a board meeting where board members are saying, throw them to the wolves, and this is horrific, and this and that, and this board member, no longer on the board again, she's no longer there. But, you know, she didn't understand the dynamics of what that was. You know, this father is responding to the teacher to come about his child, and last I heard, spare the rod, spoil the child. Okay? Nobody's of abusing kids, we get that, but we still here. Okay? So there are things that happen in leadership that, because of the discretion required, you can't really talk about it, so you kind of caught me a little bit. But I do know exactly what you're talking about. But for that story, there are like 50 others that we have to allocate. And you know, God talks about us sometimes having a ram in the bush. When you're an elected official and God places you in certain places, He places you there not to be quiet, but to speak up. But to speak up. I'm gonna say this, I don't want to get this over, but you know, I got a financial disclosure. I came in a certain way. You know, the first infusion of support for me to run came from me. I had a whole life and a career before I became an elected official. I'm not living off the public tax dollars. You know what I mean? So when you have that level of independence, and I'm just saying for me, that level of self-assurance and confidence, and you have values outside of just this. I have a beautiful daughter, I have grandchildren, I have adult children, I have a motorcycle. I got a pool, I got a home, and I have a life.
What about the wife?
Don't have a wife. That's hey, have a life. Have a life. Okay? I was living last night. Let it go, So that is something that's important in your leaders. And I did a post about 6 or 7 months ago. Now, y'all might remember this one. Just because you support me doesn't mean you control me. Just because you support me doesn't mean you control me. And you know, you have a system, both explicit and implicit, that controls people. And I tell students all the time, I get an organizational chart. I do it up town hall meeting. I have a chart. Teacher works for the principal works for the region works for the district works for the superintendent works for the board. Before 2016, and he's doing great in LA, That's fine. People thought the board worked for Alberto Cavallo. They thought he ran the board runs it. We changed that dynamic because we changed that narrative. And I dare say the board works for the people. So we have to understand that, oh God. Like, you have to be receptive to feedback and criticism and open, and you don't have to get ready. As an elected official or public servant, you need to stay ready. And so that's why these platforms like you're providing are so important. So important. And people need to understand it. You can't serve in office and come into a space and give an unscripted account of your service, your deliverables, your impact. But elections have consequences. And remember this, we as elected officials don't control the elections, you do.
Amen.
Questions? Any other questions? No questions. Dr. Keegan, I always open up the floor for questions and people don't ask me. Most people don't want to do that. They like, write your questions down, give them to Jamal. Jamal will get 10 questions, but you only get 5, because he done put those 5 to the side. Yes, ma'am.
How do you bring ideas into a community from outside the community? Ideas about schooling, education.
Law proximity.
prospering
The first thing that, you now you do it now. First thing is, which community and what you're talking about. I don't mean what name of the community, but I believe in the law of proximity. And what that means is, you start with the people that are closest to the situation or issue you're trying to address. My late father would say, start where you are, use what you have and do what you can. I have people that come to me, and I meet with everybody. I'll meet with people. But somebody may come with a grandiose idea. Oh, I want to launch this initiative in the Dade County public school system. And they come in, and I say, this is a great idea. I want to move it all over the county. How many people you got on staff? It's just me and my cousin. Say it again. You heard what she said? And you being humble, but you gotta be honest with people. Like, bruh, like, what school you went to? Start at your school first. Start where you are, because we got 300 and something schools, and can you drive from Miami Gardens to Florida City and bounce around, you and your cousin? So, that's a short answer in saying, if you want to affect change, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can with the relationships within your immediate community. Because what is this world made of? Homes, neighborhoods, communities, cities, states, then states make up a nation. So we start there. And if we start there and change that, and I was always agnostic, I'm going to be honest with you. This is the first time I became somewhat, they caught me slipping, Dr. Seminary, because I used to talk big talk over the 20, 30 years. Oh, federal government, they only get 3% of the budget. But when they started talking about snatching that money, Title I, they were talking about snatching special needs, new kids. They were talking about not funding ELL classes. It got real, because now I'm looking at students at North Miami. When I did an interview with the news there, I was at North Miami by design. They called me, I said, meet me at North Miami High School. We're not going to talk about this in the abstract. We're going to look at these Haitian kids in this school who will be affected if they cut funding for English language learners. And then you got to tell the community, because very often people think it's about us. It ain't about us, it's about them. It's about Haitians, it's about Cubans, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, it's about Hispanics in this community that's going to get affected. Then you start talking about special needs kids. Special needs is not limited to black kids. Special needs is not limited to the hood. It's not, you go into an urban and you go into a rural community. And let me tell you this, why this is kept. Title I and funding for impoverished kids is much more acute in rural communities. Rural white communities. That's why they put a pause on a lot of that funding. Don't think that, some people in political parties come up and say, we won. Y'all ain't win.
I know you're right.
The people up in Tennessee, North Carolina, Arkansas, when they realized and they ran those numbers, Mississippi. And you're talking about cutting this funding, it's going to impact my community. That's what's going to happen with this healthcare. Because when you look at, they call it Obamacare, but it's called the Affordable Care Act. And that Affordable Care Act is for people who need it. And that need is more acute in rural communities. So I always say, start where you are in the community, and that's where you can make the change. Any other questions? Well, again, thank you so much for having me.
One other thing, tell them about Black History Month.
Oh, but it'll be the tenth annual. The 10th annual. When I got elected, one of the things I realized is that we didn't have an organized way to celebrate Black history in District 1. And I've been unapologetic about that. We do Hispanic heritage, we do everything. But in District 1, for the 10th year now, and Councilwoman Wilson was one of my earlier partners. And we bring all of our children from different schools, and Dr. Seminette is always featured prominently. We have competition amongst the 50-plus schools, but she always ends up with a slot with her freedom writers. And we allow students to express themselves in the art, theater, dance, visual arts. And it's, again, a celebration of community. And we do that each and every year. It's been phenomenal. And despite a lot of the rhetoric about Black history, Black history is in the law. Black history is the law. So when people kind of lost their shirts, oh, they're going to eliminate Black history. They don't have the power to eliminate Black history. They don't have the power to eliminate Black history. I was just recently on the news doing an interview with Jim Berry when they talked about, oh, they're going to eliminate vaccinations. I spoke out on that. Okay? He doesn't have the executive authority to eliminate vaccinations. Mandatory vaccinations is a function of the legislature. And I talk to young people, they get it. How many branches of government? 3. Sometimes we forget. Legislative, the judicial, and the executive. So we have an executive paradigm, we have an executive state of being where the executive makes a lot of announcements. So the executive intended to pull back that funding. The executive is saying they're going to declare this. The executives make statements, but the function of law has to rule. And that's why elections have what?
So the reason why I brought that up is because it's by far one of the most phenomenal performances of our children representing District 1 that you want to see. And they've had it at Carroll City several years, they have it at Dorland several years, and I'm not sure where the 10th anniversary is going to be, but I am sure because it is the 10th, you won't want to miss it. You will not want to miss that. And so it is, I have loved it from day 1, and I will love it until day 21. Because there's nothing to touch your heart more than to see the future. And that's what the children in their performances and their orations and whatever it is, they really are an example of what's happening in our schools and the quality of children that we have coming from our community. So my prayer is that wherever it is, you guys will be able to be there and share it in the evening. And I will make sure that I give you the date, time, and location. Is it all together?
Yes, yes.
Location should be determined. But the date is on the calendar.
The date is on the calendar and it will be spectacular.
Yes, it will.
And what's the name of the,
Says Miami Norland.
I'm sorry, the name of the event?
Oh, the Black History Showcase.
Okay, it's on your calendar.
Miami Norland. Said Norland.
That may be a change.
That's kind of up in the air because Miami Norland Senior High can only hold so many and we.
Even at standing room only days.
More people this year.
Okay.
You won't want to miss it, okay? You guys have any more questions for Dr. Gallen?
Very thorough.
Very thorough, I have to agree,
Got a question? Great.
I work in adult ed, and I was just wondering, Broward County has like a successful program with online learning. I was just wondering if we maybe have an option for Dade County, some kind of hybrid, just to get better accessibility for adult learners.
That's something nobody has raised that. I know we have 90-day virtual and Florida virtual and things like that, but they don't run that through adult education. No, that's a good question. It's a good question. Trust me, it doesn't fall on deaf ears for me. Trust me. They can tell you that you might wind up with a board item or something like that.
Okay, that would be great.
And I heard Councilwoman talking about construction, just put this in your file, since 2016, we've invested over $200 million in construction projects in District 1. So I always like to look at the numbers and the actual hard data in terms of what we've done. Over $200 million of investments in facilities in District 1. And I don't wanna get in trouble, because we up there, we're not at the bottom, trust me. We're talking about from a $1.2 billion bond, you do the math. $1.2 billion bond that was launched in 2016. We have 9 voting districts. If we got 200 million, say less. So it wasn't an even split, it was based on need. If you look at some of the schools, New Carroll City High School, New Norland High School, North Miami Beach is now in my district, that's nearing their renovation project. North Miami is an outstanding new school. So, you know, we have the facilities, we're gonna be upgrading New Orleans, football field, we're upgrading, Carroll City's track and field. So we're gonna get some things in place, you know. And things are not always on the docket, just gotta tell us that story. Anybody heard the movie Moonlight?
Yep.
There's always a backstory to a lot of stuff, right? So Moonlight, phenomenal teacher, Miss Tanisha Seidel, she creates magic along with Dr. Simon and all of our educators and Peter Cherry Prime, educator in our district. Moonlight was an independent movie that was made, and I tell this story unapologetically, I call balls and strikes. If you ever saw the movie, the school scenes are at a school, and that school is not in Dade County. That school is in Broward. Dade County was not welcoming to Miss Seidel and the team and the producer, Barry Jenkins, who was a graduate of Northwestern. Just had to say that again. Okay. And they tried to navigate the school system to do their film. Dade County at the time didn't welcome them, Broward did. And that's where the school scene is shot. I think it's at Miramar. Okay, right across the county line. Finally, the movie came out. Not a lot of fanfare. I went to see it. It wasn't even in big theaters. I went to see it in Wynwood, small unassuming theater over there. And next thing you know, and I got the receipts for this because I did a resolution recognizing them, and I don't do resolutions all the time. And they eventually, obviously, won Best Picture. National phenomenon. And the disingenuous nature sometimes of systems and people, and I'm saying systems to be nice, because systems are made up of what?
People.
Okay, the system didn't turn you down, a person turned you down. The system didn't find itself unwelcoming, someone was not welcome. The system responded with euphoria. We won. I say that again. We won. I know the team was like, we couldn't even shoot. You know, we couldn't even shoot in your school, but we won. Everybody's running. And so they were going to be doing national press descended upon Northern Middle School. And they wanted to interview him. The reporter reasonably said, well, I would love to go and visit the classroom where this magic is created. Miss Seidel was creating magic out of a culinary arts classroom, a cooking class. When other children in other communities and other zip codes had a black box theater as a classroom. Somebody said, oh, Dr. Galvin, it wasn't in the general obligation bond. I never forget where I was. I was heading to Norland, and I was talking to the superintendent, you can record it, and they were on the way to Norland, and I said, it's a shame that X school, X community has a black box theater, and this lady is over here making magic in a culinary arts class. We're gonna find the money for a black box theater. So when you ride down 12th Avenue by Norland Middle School and you see that beautiful black box theater, you're not gonna find it in the original plan for the general obligation bond. That came because your board member raised here and demanded that those children in that school that's on the national and international stage that are doing magic and amazing things get the resources and the facilities that they deserve. And those are things that we have to do. Not notice, without publicity. That's not going to be in a press release. That'll be in a book that I write, but that's not going to be in a press release. Because there's a backstory. But that's the advocacy that we have to have and be sincere about it and unapologetic about it. And most people, if you reasonably advocate for the right things, and my litmus test, and I'll be quiet, I promise you, superintendent always push, my litmus test is whatever I say or advocate for, I don't have to do it in clandestine way. I can do it on Channel 4, Channel 6, Channel 7, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. Because what I say in private, I'll say to you in public. That's why I'm telling you, keep recording. Okay? So thank you so much.
I'm very, very happy that you came by and, we were able to visit this way, sir. And, this community appreciates all that you do and all that we don't even know about. We know that this thing does come with a lot of personal sacrifice, but, God is still good. And if you do it, you'll operate in overflow, right? Because your hands do bless others. So we are thankful to you for everything that you've done to help make our city better. Because when our schools are better, our kids are better. And they are thriving just as their parents have thrived in this community. So now, on that note, we're gonna let you go. Real quick.
Have you considered creating a leadership institute? Because we need leaders to come behind them, that continue to carry them to the end. So we as people of color, we have to start meeting to discuss our concerns and our needs. And then we have to channel this through some type of leadership institute. The other people have it, the youth have it. I'm sorry, I should call them out, but we need to do something within our community to start like educating our young, to guide them. What it's going to take for them to be a leader. Yeah, we have to start thinking about that. And I think you and I had this conversation years ago.
I think it has to be undergirded with a genuine premise of what leadership represents. And so, I understand you made a Freudian slip and look, so it's not even about different cultures, it's about community. Because I go to Atlanta, you have a community that develops each other. You go to Nashville, you go to some places, you have some community structures. So it's not about culture, it's about community. And our community has to be intentional. Elections have what? What represents our leadership? You look at what represents our leadership. And leadership doesn't have to be about a title. Leadership is about service.
That's right.
I never believed in titular leadership and title alone. And I've said this 20 years ago. Anybody that's operating in a title alone is operating at the intellectual ghetto of leadership. And so, you know, I come from those who walk in. If you got to say you're the principal, then you're what? You're not. If you got to come in and announce, I'm in charge, then what? You're not. Okay, it's about your personal relationship. And at the end of the day, it's about how you treat people. So our premise of leadership in this community, in my estimation, and I can say it, in my estimation, has to be one that understands leadership represents service above self.
Yes.
That's why I just roll differently. I mean, I love everybody to them, I roll differently. So we have to shift the paradigm of what leadership represents. And you go in my schools, they'll tell you, you go in my school, I'm not coming to sit down and cross my legs. We about to hit some classrooms. I want to go check some bathrooms. I want to see the garbage cans been empty. And I'm going to holler at the cafeteria workers who feed our children. You know what I mean? You got to be able to walk with kings but not lose the common touch. And I think that definition of leadership has to be recalibrated in this community if we're going to get a shift. I said that to say that people can be taught leadership if they're willing to learn.
Come on, he's leaving. Come on, one more. Keep it short. Shh.
I enjoyed it very much. I learned a lot. Things that I didn't know. And I'm in the process of writing a book. And I'm from I'm from China, but I'm a South African. In between there. And, you know, a lot going on. And my parents, back in the day, ran two businesses for a black person. First Hotel, and also birthplace genocide colonies. And you wouldn't believe the stuff that they had to go through. So I'm trying to finish it, but just really, you know, like a boost to get them there.
But just look at God. And I'm gonna tell you why. She said she's from where? She's from where? My dad was born in Monticello.
Yeah.
You know that. He moved, you may know that, the gallery. When he was 3 years old, his mother and father moved him to Connecticut for a better life. They understand the difference between the South and the North. And the North was considered the promised land, better opportunity. So, and he was an only child, so when people talk about, oh, Dr. Gallo, my cousin, maybe third or fourth cousin, but my dad was only child. But my mother was from Texas and was raised in New York, so they were not native Miamis. I was born there. So I understand Monticello and Jefferson County and everything, but tell your story, okay? When we talk about this issue of Black history, I've just released my third book. You know, people like I can tell a whole lot of stories. Let me tell the story. And I use real names, real events, because at the end of the day, that's what we did as a people. You know, working on the forum. But yeah, tell your story. Tell your story. And we need that. We need that history.
Okay, thank you.
Presentation. I know that some of you, we're gonna start with her. Are there any other questions that you might have of me before we start with our breast cancer presentation? Any questions, Larry? No.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
22nd and 183rd, what's going up? They're tearing down the building.
22nd and 100.
Ruby and Jean.
Ruby and Jean. The restaurant on 22nd and 183rd.
Oh, okay.
They tore it down. There's the,
What I know about it, what was wrong with it was underground. And whoever was going to open it up and use it as a restaurant, they were gonna have to redo the whole underground. And it was millions of dollars. And so, we had several businesses that were very, very interested in acquiring the property. But they could not because Miami-Dade County would not approve it for a restaurant because of the underground, land. It was antiquated.
underground.
And so it needed to be brought up.
So they're gonna redo it?
I'm not certain because I don't know what's going on over there, but I can find out for you. All right, now, here's what I'm gonna ask you guys to do for me, please. I'm gonna ask, my good friend Lisa to also do it. I think that your information is very, very valuable. I believe that healthcare is probably our single most, important issue for all of us. And this cancer thing is eating us alive. It's catching us off guard. And I know that when you know better, you do better, okay? So if you guys would give her about 15 good, solid minutes. I know we've been here a while, but she's prepared so much, and I want you all to hear her. Would you do that for me, please? I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
Good evening. Good evening. My fellow brothers and sisters, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here to talk about a topic that's so very near and dear to me. Breast cancer came into my radar when I was about 25 years old. One of my college best friends was diagnosed with breast cancer. And here I am, the nurse in the group. I didn't have a clue. Every time she had a symptom, I had to phone a friend. I had to phone a coworker. I had to read the book. I had no idea that someone as young as age 25 years old would not only be diagnosed with breast cancer, but she went through all the changes. She went in remission, it came back, it spread it went to her lungs, it went to her brains. She passed away at just 31 years old, and we were devastated. And that began my mission to learn everything I needed to learn that was going to negatively impact people of color. So I can better educate not just me, but my family, my friends, and the community. So I wanted to talk about breast cancer. I wanted to have a conversation. Healthcare disparities always negatively impact people of color. example of a healthcare disparity. How many of us have health insurance versus how many Caucasians have health insurance? So when they get sick, they have health insurance, they have good doctors, they know how to maneuver the medical system. We don't always know how to maneuver. I have a friend right now whose blood pressure is out of control. It's going on 2 months. Why? But she's at one of the prestigious facilities. She's at Cleveland Clinic, but you can't pick up the phone and call your doctor. See, I just show up. I have access because I know how to maneuver the system, right? I work for a cardiologist as a nurse practitioner. Day one, the people wanted my cell phone number. Why? They wanted access. So guess what? I had to give them their Metro PCS phone number because I wanted to keep that job. And so whenever they would have a problem, they will call me or text me. I would get paid, additional, but they had access. How many of you have your doctor's cell phone number? Raise your hand. Right? I was sick recently. I sent my doctor a message on Facebook. She called me back on Facebook. Girl, meet me at the ER. So we don't have access, and so we have to learn how to maneuver. Get to know your doctor. Be prepared when you go to your appointments. Write down all of your questions. Don't forget, engage. So I just wanted to talk about breast cancer. So we're gonna have a little conversation. And the councilwoman got me following Dr. Gallup. So breast cancer facts. Breast cancer is the second leading cause of death. It's out of control. When I did my research again, it was kind of morbid for me. The second most common cancer is breast cancer, only to skin cancer. So breast cancer is on the rise. Not that anything has changed, but the ability to catch breast cancer has advanced. So they're catching through screenings breast cancer more. It increases with age. The older you get, the more you at risk. We'll talk about that. Males are also at risk for breast cancer. Not as frequently as women. I know 2 males that had breast cancer. One passed away, and the second one, he's had it like 3 times. He keep coming back, he keep catching it, he keep fighting it. So right now he's doing well. So males can get breast cancer. Research is showing that 1 out of 2 women have not gotten their mammograms, right? Because we like women, we gotta work, we gotta take care of everybody, we busy, we don't have time. But we make time to get our nails done, our eyebrows, our hair did, right? We make time. We have to start making our health a priority because early detection really saves lives. There is a difference with being diagnosed with stage 0 breast cancer versus stage 4. That means they're going to build everything at you plus the kitchen sink. There is a difference. If caught early, you have a 99% survival rate. Women of color, we're often diagnosed in more advanced stages, stages 3 or stage 4. I was diagnosed stage 0. And I give God the glory. I worked at Jackson. I was scheduled. I showed up 7:30. I work from home, so to have to go to the main hospital is a challenge. Got to fight for parking, literally. So I got there early, excited, get my mammogram done at ultrasound. Guess what happened? 8 o'clock, they didn't call me. 8:30, they didn't call me. I'm playing backgammon on my phone. I texted one of my coworkers, hey, I was first. The machines were broke. The part that translates the data to the physicians was down. So they said, well, Alicia, we'll reschedule you. No, this is my day off. I'm staying. I'm not in a rush today. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I'm like, is it fixable? 12 o'clock. So I got to Jackson at 7:30. They didn't do my mammogram and ultrasound to 12:30, right? Because I didn't want to have to sacrifice another day. All right. So that began my saga of being diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, what if I had said, I'm tired of waiting and reschedule me, right? I could have got lost in the system. They may have rescheduled me 3 months down the line, but I stayed, I was patient. It was an abnormality. I had an ultrasound. They wanted to do a biopsy. The biopsy was done in 3 days. I was diagnosed. So that makes a difference. So we have to stop putting our health on the back burner and make it a priority. Again, why is breast cancer a disparity? Remember, a lot of us are dealing with diabetes, and we don't take our insulin every day. We don't even check our blood sugar. We're dealing with high blood pressure. So when you get diagnosed with breast cancer, sometimes they can't start your treatment right away because you gotta get your blood pressure controlled. They schedule you for surgery, you show up, your blood pressure 200 over 130. So then they gotta deal with that. So we gotta try to take care of ourselves when we can, as often as we can. What is cancer? This is so important, and this is a nugget. Cancer is when your cells begin to grow out of control. Our cell life is about 120 days. They die, they multiply, they divide, then they die. But sometimes you have a cell doing its own thing. There's something, a genetic mutation within the cell that causes it to grow out of control. And then it clumps up and forms a tumor. Now, not all tumors are cancerous. Tumors in the breast that grows out of control, you'll end up with a diagnosis of breast cancer. And this typically begins in your lobes. I have a handout. If you can look at the structure of the breast, you'll see your lobes. Your lobes is where the milk is formed in your breast. And that's often where the initial breast cancer is formed. Now, when I say cancer, understanding the process of cancer is a nugget. I don't know, now doctors are checking our vitamin D levels, right? So have any of you had your vitamin D levels? Because the research has determined that women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer had low levels of vitamin D. So now vitamin D is significant, and what it does, it builds your immune system, it helps your bones. But I did further research. So when I talk about the cells growing out of control, the vitamin D, just imagine you're on a horse. I like horses, right? Imagine you're on a horse, that's the vitamin D. And the vitamin D reins in those cells, and it slows the proliferation or the multiplication of the cell. It helps the cell not grow so fast out of control. So this is why knowing your vitamin D level and taking vitamin D is so important. The best vitamin D is where?
Sun.
Somebody, y'all ready? So we have to start getting some sun. I know this not the same sun we grew up with, but we have to dedicate like 5 minutes of vitamin D. I believe I used to run in the sun, and I believe that saved my life. You know, my cancer was super, super small, and it was encapsulated, right? So we have to start dedicating our time. We have to say, okay, I I know it's hot, I'm gonna walk outside for 5 minutes, not drive around in the car. I need y'all to get some sun, right? Not to the point where we're gonna pass out, that's why I said start at 5 minutes. And also have your vitamin D levels checked. You gotta take vitamin D, that will help you. Now, what have you all heard that are the risk of breast cancer? Anybody show of hands?
Genetics in the family?
Yeah,
Like, bro.
no. You said family,
I said, genetics in the family.
right. So it's so important to know your family history. I did a risk assessment, for breast cancer. My scores were low, right? And I thought I was, good, but guess what, I wasn't. I did this test again, and my score shot up. Why? Because I discovered I have a half sister, right, who I just met last year, and she tells me she had breast cancer. So we have the same daddy. So that makes a difference with knowing your family history. So my score went from 19 to 41. And that would have made a difference with my initial treatment, but I didn't know then. So my treatment was low. And so after I met my half-sister, now it's high, so now I have to be, super guarded, because there's some things I wanted to do. I wanted to have the double mastectomy and get, them set, but they said no, because my scores was too low.
Is it true that breastfeeding reduces breast cancer? Because I breastfed everybody, but I was saying that they said that's not true.
No, research shows that women who breastfeed has a lower incidence of breast cancer, so very good. Any other risk factors?
Diet?
Yeah.
Diet?
Right, right.
Sugar feeds cancer.
Risk
Sugar
factors,
feeds cancer.
right. Show of hands, how many, go ahead.
I've heard about alkaline diet, like eating more alkaline to help fight against cancer.
Well, that's what they believe holistically.
Okay.
That's what they believe holistically. So, how many of us have gained, say, 15 pounds since high school? Right. So the excess body fat has a lot of estrogen in it, and that also is a contributor to breast cancer. Family history. How many of you have had? Do we have any breast cancer survivors here? Yay! How many have a family member or sister with breast cancer? Right. So that's a risk factor for you. Right. That's a risk factor. Having ovarian cancer is a risk factor. Being black is a risk factor, right? Being Hispanic is a risk factor. That's what the research is saying. And then age. How many anticipate having a birthday next year? So the older we get, the more we at risk. So for those of us who have been diagnosed with breast cancer, they evaluate our tissue and have us come in for more testing. And one of the things they want to know is, do we have the genetic mutation called BRCA1 or BRCA2? Because for those who have BRCA1 and BRCA2, found in the African American community have a higher risk of getting breast cancer. And I've known people to just go ahead and have a double mastectomy and they have their ovaries removed. So again, we do have those risk factors. How to reduce the risk factors? Early detection. What do we need to do? We need to assess our breasts. We need to look at ourselves. Who would know that something is different in our breast with us? Right? So when the last time you did your breast exam, your self-breast exam? raise your hand.
Okay, I'm gonna raise it up. Okay, I'm gonna ask a question. I'm gonna do a side. I'm gonna ask y'all a question. How many of you really look at yourself? And the reason why I say that, is that a lot of times when people have not detected things about their bodies, it's because they haven't looked at it. They haven't examined their bodies. I'm not saying that they don't get nude, that they don't wash themselves, but they don't actually go and look under their arm. They don't feel their breasts. They don't look at their legs. You know, we just stop looking because we're running. You know, we're kind of coming in, getting in and out the shower, putting on our clothes, going to bed, getting ready to go to the next thing, and we're not spending enough time really examining ourselves to see how our bodies have or have not changed.
And that's important. We have to look at ourselves. And just to give you an example, just imagine you're looking towards me on the mirror. You need to look at yourself without clothes on. Put your hands on your hip. Look at yourself. Put your hands, if you can, in the back of your head and look at yourself. Right? We all have one breast that's a little larger than the other, but pay attention to your nipples. You know, if your nipples point down, then all of a sudden it's leaning to the left, that just means you just need to investigate, right? And then when you're brushing your teeth and you're leaning over the sink, you may see some dimpling, right? Those are early signs, but again, it can be nothing, but you want to check it early. Getting regular mammograms. About what age should we get mammograms? So by age 40, we should start having regular mammograms, right? But if you have risk factors, if you have a family history, you should start way before 40. You know, like my friend who was diagnosed at age 25, I don't know what her family history is, but breast self-exams really should start in our teens. Right, but research says we should start at age 20, and we should do them every day of the month, the same day during every month. If you still have your period, do it maybe 5 to 7 days after your period. If you don't, do it on your birthday. So if your birthday like mine's on the 16th, I do mine's on the 16th. Right? And clinical breast exams is when it's done by a provider. The doctor should be doing a clinical breast exam at least once a year when you go in. Lifestyle adjustments. You gotta start moving. You gotta start walking. You gotta start exercising. And we gotta eat better. So a lot of the food that we eat is processed food. Cancer is out of control because we're not getting the nutrients that our bodies need. For instance, mac and cheese. You know, the gravy and some collard greens taste so good, but it's all processed. It has no benefit. And so we're not getting the vitamins that we used to get from our foods, right? And so the processed foods is damaging our cells. And so now our cells are out of control, and just like every day somebody's being diagnosed with cancer. So we gotta eat better. How many people had a fruit today?
All day.
Come to y'all house.
All day.
Okay.
Because the fruitarians.
Okay. And so when we look at vitamin D levels, your vitamin D levels should be like between 30 and 100. The research showed that women, when they're diagnosed, their vitamin D levels was like 8. So it's like they had no protection. And maybe 30 years ago, people up north had a higher incidence of breast cancer than in the South, because in the South we had the sun, and we were outside more. You know, we walked more. The people up north, like, they had winter, 10 months a year. So, but now it's kind of even. We caught up with the people up north. Let's talk early detection, trust me. How many stages of breast cancer?
Or,
How many stages of breast cancer?
Five.
Hey, y'all,
Five.
who said 5? So there are 5 stages. The first stage is 0, and it's called in-situ. So that's when it's in place. And then you have stage 1. So 0 in stage 1, they'll do what's called a lumpectomy. They'll remove a small portion of your breast, and you'll receive radiation. 1B, they'll do the same thing. 2, they're gonna start talking about chemo. And before they do chemo, they'll do what's called a oncology score. When they look at the surgical removed tissue and analyze it, and then they'll score it. And if it's higher than, say, 25, then you're a candidate for chemotherapy. 3 and 4, 4 means that, 3 means that the cancer has spread it within the breast. 4 is the cancer has spread it outside the breast. And so, we don't want that. We want to kind of catch it early. But again, because of technology and research, people are living longer, even with stage 4 breast cancer. And we have to change our mindset. Being diagnosed with breast cancer isn't a death sentence. In fact, the process, how it is, you go in and you get your mammogram, they see an abnormality, they call you to come back. When they call you to come back, take a button so that you can grasp everything that you need to grasp, right? Because when you know they're searching for something, it makes you nervous. I had a biopsy. I'm trying to speed up. So they'll do what's called a biopsy. The biopsy was painless, right? But I just didn't like the look on the doctor's face, because it's like he just knew he was gonna find something. He was just determined. And I'm on my back and my breast moving. I felt some kind of way, but it was painless. So I just want you to know, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Take a buddy. So once the tissue came back positive, they called me back for a consultation. So then I had my crew, my other coworkers and my other friends, just to make sure we didn't miss anything. And then they told me, they gave me the plan. And so I received the plan. I opted to have my treatment at Memorial. Jackson felt like I was a traitor. But I told Jackson, I'm not coming out here 5 days a week to fight with traffic, to find a parking space. When I can valet park for free at Memorial. So it's the little things that makes a difference, right? So Memorial took good care of me. Memorial drained my HSA card. So the difference, when I had to have follow-up mammograms at Jackson, it was free. Memorial, $200. So imagine having to have 3 types of imaging all hit your car for $200. I said, this is why people don't have access. I'm glad I put this money for my glasses on this card. I didn't get glasses last year, so I don't see y'all good.
They've been here twice. So the first time they don't look in because you're dense. The second time, a lymph node hit me. It was like all purple inside of it. What caused that?
Okay, I have to look it up. I never heard
The
that.
technician that was doing my mammogram, she started screaming. I mean, she was like, she would have lost her job. But she said, go to the doctor, go to the doctor. She was like, and when I went, it was perfect.
Oh, wow. But you said something very profound. You said your breast was dense. So a lot of people of color, a lot of us, we have dense breasts, and it's not really based on how it feels. Dense breast on the mammogram shows up as white. To me, it is all white. However, when it's cancer, cancer also shows up as white. So this is why when you have dense breasts, then they'll recommend that you do an ultrasound, and then in some cases,
MRI.
Yeah, I have to do the mammogram and ultrasound every time I go December.
Very good, right? The insurance company gonna fight you over that MRI, because again, they denied me because I didn't know I had a sister. So now they calling me back and they approved my MRI.
That's one of the things that I had a problem with when I was first diagnosed. I went to Memorial for my mammogram. Memorial West does not do a, MRI. When I was going through, so when I had to search for a place that would do an MRI, but they wanted to do the breast exam all over again, which the insurance was not gonna pay for. So it's important to know, if you think you might need these services, you need to find a place that can do all three.
Right, and that goes back to access, but again, with your mammograms, try to go to the same place, the same location, the same facility, and just make sure that they offer mammograms, ultrasounds, and MRIs, right?
Yes.
Because when you're going from one place, I'll call you next, when you're going from one place to the next, the first thing they're gonna do is ask you for your prior imaging. And then that may even delay your current mammogram because you gotta call around to find your previous imaging. So try to stick with the same location. Yeah, I'm sorry, you have a question?
Yeah, I did. It was more of a statement than anything else. I'm dealing with that now. I had a biopsy a week ago. Now, for the last 6 years, I thought having the mammogram because it's so painful for me, and I had very bad spread. So I opted not to get a mammogram for an ultrasound. The ultrasound saved it. The mammogram went back this year, and the mammogram never caught it. The ultrasound caught it. So I am at a 0 right now, and I see a doctor in local tomorrow. But my whole point was I was fighting against the mammogram because it was so painful. It was the ultrasound. And when they went back, the mammogram still didn't see it. And it's very small, but it's there. So I have follow-up tomorrow.
Very good, very good. And we will keep you in prayer that everything
Thank you.
works well.
Thank you.
So when we get our mammograms, try not to wear deodorant, right? Because sometimes it shows up, and don't shave the day you go, right? Don't shave the night before. You don't shave a week prior so that it won't be any extra stuff under your arms that will cause a distraction. Breast self-exams. Real quick. Let's do a self-breast exam, okay? So I'm gonna let y'all sit down, y'all look comfortable for 2 minutes. So you're gonna take these 2 fingers, right? You wanna put your hand behind your back, and you wanna do this standing in the shower and laying on your back. You wanna go to your armpit, right? And you're gonna go 1, 2, 3. That means soft, medium, and hard. Because when you get to the nipple pod, you want to try to get on all the way down there. So we're going to start from the armpit. 1, 2, 3, down. 1, 2, 3, down. 1, 2, 3, down. 1, 2, 3. Now this can be done going up and down. Y'all continue. Continue while I talk. Or it can be done in a circle. So when we first started doing it, they recommended in a circle, but now we just go up and down. So we're gonna keep on going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you wanna go down, up, down, up, down, up. When you get to your nipple, you wanna just roll around, 1, 2, 3, and you wanna continue that process. There's nothing wrong with touching your breast, right? You may feel something, you may feel a lump, it'll feel like a soft pea. I have examples up here. But again, because you feel something, don't mean it's actually cancer. However, if it is, the quicker you find it, the better it is. Now, treatment. So, like she said, she had a biopsy, she came back, stage 0. Treatment depends on the stage and the tissue. So, have you all heard of triple negative? I'm gonna say this now. Triple negative, I'm gonna give an example of triple negative. Black women have a higher incidence of triple negative cancer. That particular cancer is very difficult to treat, however, with research, people are living longer. But there are 3 receptors in our cell that helps with the fight and treatment of breast cancer. Can I get 3 volunteers? Y'all gonna put this hat on?
Yes, I'm already ready.
What my theme music? I'm Leon Harris. Where's my theme music? So, y'all gonna see the commercials about triple negative, and because we're impacted, I want us to understand, right? Hey, we waiting on our music.
Child, we were just mad.
Listen up, because otherwise the commercial.
So these my cancer cells, right? These my cancer cells. So right now, they're triple negative. They have no covering. So I'm just doing whatever. Right? Just trying to treat them. Giving them everything I got, right? Right? How about that? So now, she is estrogen positive. She's progesterone positive. She's HER2 positive. So we have medication that specifically blocks estrogen, progesterone, and HER2. So when they're positive, the medication falls on the receptor that's on top of the cancer cell and destroys the cancer cell, right? But if they're negative, they don't have a receptor. So that's why we gotta keep moving and hitting them with everything. So I wanted you all to understand and have a visual. This is the cell. Their bodies are the cells. The hat is the receptor. So when I shoot the medication, I'm gonna lay it right on this hat. Right, I'm laying it right on this hat. And it's easy to treat, and this is why we're living longer. And this is why early detection saves lives. Thank you, ladies.
We're gonna keep the hat. You better stop.
All right, so if I didn't do nothing else, I wanted to use the example. In conclusion, don't be afraid. I believe in a buddy system. You need to talk about cancer. That was a liar. Back in the day, we didn't talk about cancer. Somebody had cancer, it was a secret. They stayed in that back room when company came. We didn't tell nobody they had cancer, and they died alone. No, we want to die together. We want to talk about cancer. We want to fight this devil. Look at your breasts, feel your breasts, touch your breasts. My last nugget, please get some vitamin D. And I mean the vitamin. Get some vitamin D, the vitamin, and get some sun. That is all right. Get some sun, and more importantly, pray for a cure. That concludes my presentation.
You would think that vitamin D comes in milk, y'all. I just think that calcium comes in milk. Vitamin D comes from the sunlight, and when you don't have it, because I have a low, vitamin D, which they use 50,000 BTU units. It's a real small pill, but still, sunlight. If you want to take pills, or something.
And I have some breast examples, just so you can touch to see how it feels if you have a little lump. Don't take them, but you can touch them. Thank you. Thank you to my new auntie, Miss Joseph. ladies, Lady Makita and Lady, McDonald, thank you for coming out for your support, that's all I see. And also, I come before you from the Order of Eastern Stars.
You know what I do want to say is that I can feel the vibration in the room. And all of us having each other is very, very important, you know? And sometimes when we are able to be vulnerable and learn and share, it makes the journey a lot easier. It really, really does. So looking around in this room, it made me feel good in my heart space. And I appreciate you tremendously for the way that you presented, because you kept it basically simple. You know, sometimes when people are talking to you about medical things, they use language that you don't understand. And you can't translate it into meaningful action. But I think that yours was a very simple way that we could easily relate to. And I learned a lot, and I appreciate you for it tremendously. She's a mom, I've known her for a lifetime. I want to say thank you to you too, ladies. You know, I am telling you, and I'm a believer of this, that as women, we are so important to the world. And not only the right now, but to the future. Because the Word of God tells us that we are the children's first teachers, you know? And so what we share with each other helps us all in our own homes, you know? And if we share good things, then we can take back to our home and share it with our families and share it in our community. And I think that no matter what color your skin is, what your educational background is, there is nothing like sharing just good old-fashioned what? Wisdom. Because wisdom transcends time. Every time you deposit your knowledge into someone, they are able to deposit it into someone else, whether it is a child, a teenager, a young adult. And so that information will live on. It takes time. It takes time. But let's take some time with each other. Let's take some time with our youth. Let's take some time in our families and just share. Because this was informative. We didn't have to pay anything but a little bit of time together, right? And so I generally, at the end, at the conclusion, I let a man pray as we walk out the door. Sir, would you mind? Okay. We are gonna gather hands, and next month is November 10th, and that'll be our prosperity basket planning time for the holidays as well as for Christmas. So all of you who would like to volunteer. So much about our ancestors, what they had to deal with in their lives, is that they had to have faith. And faith is what you believe despite what you might see. And it's something that is downloaded from a place, and I'm gonna say heaven, or even from the Holy Spirit, where he touches our hearts and he touches our minds, he touches our bodies. And so when we come together as a community, you know, I found out that one of the reasons why Shirley Gibson called this place the Gardens is because, City of 90 Gardens, is because the Spirit of the Lord dwells here. And so she wanted to make sure that the gardens were about the Spirit. And so for that reason, we need to keep that in our hearts and in our minds, so that as we are going through whatever it is that God has for us to go through, he has a promise on the place that we call home. But he will dwell with us, and we will be more than conquerors through those who love the Lord. Sir.
Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we give you glory, honor, and praise. We lift you up and magnify you because you're such an awesome God, such a loving God, such a giving God. Father God, we thank you for the breast cancer lesson that we learned tonight, even on with Dr. Gallen with the school board. We thank you for putting those in places those strategically in position Father God, that you have placed us together. We thank and praise you once again for the councilwoman that was presented and put on the program. Continue to use it for your glory, for your honor, and your kingdom. We lift up the entire city of Miami Gardens. Father God, our police department, the municipality itself. We thank you for each and every person represented here tonight as we leave this place, but never your presence. We thank you for your divine protection, your angels that are camped around us. We say a special prayer for those that have won the battle with breast cancer. Father God, we realize that it has affected every household. But Father God, we thank you for giving us strength. We know that your grace is sufficient for this day. We shall continue to rest in that grace. We give you all the glory, honor, and praise because you're no longer worthy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.